We're all friends here.
We're all good friends here. We've been chatting behind stage for like the last half an hour getting ready for the panel, so it should be an interesting discussion today. So we'll do a round of introductions, and you'll get to know us a bit better, and then we'll get right into it. So I'll introduce myself first, and then we'll go around the room. I'm Daigan. I'm here from behalf of Vega Protocol. I do a lot of community work there, and I've been I flew out here from London. I'm here for the week, and I've been really enjoying DeFiCon. A big shout out to Chelsea and the great work she did putting everything together, and everyone else behind the scenes and the team that have really done a great job putting everything here together. And yeah, that's my introduction. And I'll be moderating today, so you're going to hear a lot more of my voice. Over to you, Arisa.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Arisa, and I'm the head of marketing for Bitcoin.com, a non-custodial wallet company. I advise for a couple of DeFi protocols on the side, and I come from a very strong product marketing background.
And I'm Jessica. I'm head of marketing and content at AAVE, formerly at Apple. I have a background in content and curation and marketing and some gaming as well. Nice to be here.
I'm Doug from Metis. We're a layer 2 that just launched, and pleasure to be here with you guys.
And Jay, VP of Marketing at Avalanche. We're currently building the L1 Avalanche. Good to meet you.
Sweet. I also didn't mention what we do. We're building a decentralized derivative platform. Check out Vega Protocol. We're going to have a big year ahead. We've been building for the last 3 or so years. And yeah, that's enough shilling. So on the topic of this panel, we're talking about marketing today, to shill or not to shill. And I think shilling is a very overused term, and it's something we use a lot in crypto, but I wanted to tie down the term before we started talking about it. So conventionally, I think if you look up like what is a shiller, what is shilling, it's got a bad rep. It's someone who's trying to sell you something or pitch you something so that they can gain from doing it. But in crypto, we take a lot of terms and then we end up making them our own. So you have like probably nothing, which means probably something. You have like, you say you got rugged when you don't have enough milk in the fridge when you want to have your cereal in the morning. So we kind of take things to the extreme, and like shilling is like a bad way of saying, a way of saying like we're just putting our products to the people and we're showing people what we've built and what we've been creating. And so like the first thing I want to ask is there, what is the ethics of shilling, and is there a limit to how far you push your product, and how do you think about that in the DeFi crypto context? Should you always shill? Some people I've spoke to have said like there is no limit. You just got to push it and push it and push it. And other people say you need to be conservative. So I want to ask. I'll start with Arisa and then we'll go around. But do you think there is a limit to how far you push stuff? How do you think about it at your own respective companies? And yeah, any other thoughts you have around the topic of just pushing things?
Yeah, absolutely. I did think about this, and I definitely think you can overshill a product or a protocol. I think in one of the Web3 talks yesterday, there was the conversation about how to build a strong Web3 community. And what the speakers were mentioning was that it's essentially like a cult. And the strongest Web3 communities have their own rituals, have their own belief systems, and a vision that everyone is going for. And when that goes too far, it's kind of like a cult that went maybe a little too radical. And so you can oversaturate the market, and you can also end up shilling so much that it damages the protocol's reputation. And so in that sense, it's probably important to understand how much is enough and what your vision for communicating the protocol's vision is.
Yeah, and I would also say, I think it depends on the product as well, right? So from a decentralization aspect, I think, once, for example, the AAVE protocol, that's something the AAVE companies developed and put out in the world, and then it's really up to the community to then go out and shill that and develop it for themselves. But I think it just depends on the product, really. So if you're looking at, beyond the AAVE protocol, if it's just other products that we're producing, that scale of centralization versus decentralization, I think, comes into like a huge question in terms of like how you're shilling and what that really looks like.
Yeah, just to Jessica's point, the cream kind of rises to the top in this industry. We've got pretty much two separate bags or categories, I guess you'd say, where you've got your meme coins and you've got kind of your BS, and then you've got your actual protocols and products that are truly going to change the world and be here in the next 5+ years. AAVE obviously is one of them, and some of the different partners that are here today. And then you've got the other category, which, I mean, that's kind of part of the game, though, if you think about it. You've got, I mean, obviously Twitter, but I think the consumers will start to see through it that you're either here to pump your bags and make money, or this is, it's the age-old question: are you in it for the tech and the fundamentals, or are you really trying to, pump your bags? And so that's, it's similar to the speaker earlier from Celsius, who like, well, what are we doing? Like, are we in it for the money, or are we really in it to truly change the world? And so I think that's the market will figure it out, and kind of discern, what's really valued. Is it Doge or Shiba, or is it AAVE and Ren and all these really truly technical innovations? So that's time will tell, I think.
So I think the common theme I'm hearing is signal to noise ratio, I feel like.
Yeah.
So for us, and I think as marketers, for me, when someone goes, what do you do for a living within the context of crypto? I tell people base value. I tell stories that resonate to the end user. If that end user is an institution, I tell one story. If it's to a retail investor, it's also a wholly different story. Now, if you tell the same story over and over and over, that kind of signal to noise ratio starts shifting a little bit. So I think the main kind of crux of maybe our collective points here is there's probably a balance. It's unique to your own brand and you as an individual. If you want to tip that scale, that's totally up to you. And I think the market might react differently. It might react positively or negatively. It's not really clear based on all those variables. But I really think it's about understanding your user base, understanding yourself, and then really adjusting from there. And I think we're all pretty active on Twitter. It's probably the case. I know there's some times where I tweet, I don't know, 5-10 times about Avalanche. And then I think to myself at the end of the day, I'm like, well, maybe I did a little bit too much. But at the end of the day, I have to tell that story. So if you can track the metrics, you can track the engagement, the conversations, you can really be honest with yourself and kind of course correct. And no one's perfect on day one. So I think it's more just a timely thing. And over time, you'll figure it out.
So I think we got a little mix there of like you build stuff, and then if it's good, people will come, and then your product will shill itself. And then there's a degree of, okay, you should just be telling your story, and you should be trying to tell everyone about what you're creating because you're passionate about it, and people will need to listen. And then on the point of like the good stuff flows to the top. I think right now the market is quite confused as well, because like there's a lot of stuff that isn't so good currently occupying space at the top, and then and you got a lot of these memes and a lot of things. So you do need to shout about the things that are actually good and are actually creating value. And that's kind of the whole point of what we're doing within the crypto space, is we're telling the story and we're getting that story in front of people's eyeballs so that they can learn and listen about the things that we really think are making a change. And so I want to move a bit on from the topic of shilling, but still in the marketing realm, and talking about how Web3 brands and Web3 companies, how they vary from their Web2 counterparts. And I know we've got a lot of experience on this panel and people that have been working in various different industries within the marketing space. So I've got some questions. First, I want to keep it broad, and then I'm going to ask you individually. So first, I want to ask, how is it different working in Web3 and trying to market in terms of like KPIs, meeting? How do you measure success? What do you look for? We were joking backstage that with the Raves that Aave like to throw, like, how do you measure a successful Rave? What is the KPI? What is the thing you look
How much
towards?
fun did you have?
I
That's
had a
the
lot.
KPI.
Vote.
Yeah, how much fun did you have? How many pictures did you take? I don't know. Did you then install Aave, like start lending on Aave afterwards? But yeah, like just I'll open it up to the panel. We'll start with Jay. What is the difference? What are the key things you look for when you're marketing or pushing things within Web3? How do you measure them, and how is it different from more traditional industries?
Yeah, I think I'll answer the first part of the question, which is how is it different from Web 2, right? I think the thing that stands out to me the most is how Web 3 brands are treated on day one. And the thing that I've said, so I've been professionally in crypto marketing since 2015. So I guess it's quite some time when it comes to crypto years. But when you really look at it, it's the way we're treated by the community. The Web 3 brands are effectively held at the standard of a public company on day one, both from the reach perspective globally, but also from the transparency perspective. And of course, at least from speaking on behalf of AAVE Labs, we're a centralized company. So if you think about how we need to operate and react to these demands of transparency, it's actually not as black and white as people think. People are saying, oh, well, if you just tell us everything you do, then that's going to be fully transparent. Well, yes, of course, that's true, but we are also living in a world where it's hyper competitive. There's potential IP risk. If there is IP, there's also risk of plans that are in stealth. And so I think you kind of have to balance that. And then maybe what we were talking about yesterday with measurement and KPIs, I think this is where it's getting very interesting for crypto, where crypto is now moving into an awareness stage. For the last probably 6-7 years now, a lot of crypto brands, especially the early stage ones, they were probably focused mostly on digital activations. That's where the users were: Twitter, Discord, Telegram, and then +2 on either direction. But now, because of the attention that's really coming in the space, it's not just about the kind of cypherpunk community or the really digitally native community, but it's more so about the everyday. I think we're not quite mainstream yet, but we are getting the attention of mainstream. And so I think brand level activations like AAVE, we have a Formula E team. I know FTX and Crypto.com seem to own everything in the world at this point. So now it's all about measuring at every step of the way. I think as you get farther down the funnel or closer to your conversion, it gets a little bit more difficult. So you tend to use proxies, like how many people are visiting the website, how many people are downloading the documentation that talks about how to port your application over to your port protocol, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the proxies where we're at right now, I feel like there's probably a better solution. Maybe you guys have some thoughts, but yeah, that's kind of my take.
So I actually wanted to add on to Jay's point about marketing within the crypto native community. So the industry has obviously gotten very, very large in the last few years. And with the industry, I think the products, the protocol, the culture of marketing has really grown together with the community. And what essentially happened is there's a lot of crypto native marketing best practices now that I think are very different than what traditional marketing looks like. And so in terms of marketing strategy, when Jay first spoke in his intro, he was talking about the difference between crypto native marketing and kind of the crypto beginner marketing. I think the two types of marketing should be treated fairly differently at this stage, because the way people react to things, how crypto native community deems brands on the first day is very different than how traditional markets and people who don't know a lot about crypto regards brands. And so it's kind of important to, especially for Bitcoin.com, our product is a crypto wallet that is catered towards beginners. So we actually have a strategy that is focused more kind of on the traditional side for people who may have heard about Bitcoin but literally don't know what Ethereum is. And we also have a strategy for people who's been in the space for a little longer. And it's just two completely different things. And measurement is kind of a reflection of that. So I think there's softer KPIs for crypto native marketing because a lot of it is still very early stage. And it's like when Nike first came up with Just Do It, or when Apple first came up with Think Different. It's about kind of knowing that feeling of you're making something good, you're doing something good, building that community in AAVE and seeing everyone having fun and loving the product. That's crypto native marketing. Whereas in traditional marketing, when Bitcoin.com holds an event, we have a survey and we measured a number of people who didn't know that we have a wallet product, versus after the event, like knowing how much, like knowing what we do and like knowing that we have a product. Like I think it's treated very differently.
I'd also say too, I think it's interesting that just comparing Web 2, I mean, so at Apple, it's one of the most successful companies in the world. It's got a really strong foundation and massive brand awareness. And so I think to your point, we are very early. And so I think that we're in this place where we're trying things and it feels very grassroots. And so I think why for us, AAVE is important. And for those who don't know, it's a party that we've thrown a few times now, connected to conferences, and it's no networking. It's truly just a big party with like amazing DJs and cool lights, and it's really awesome. And the goal of that is really this brand awareness. It's that, and I made a joke about like, did you have fun? But the truth is that the KPIs are really soft because it's more about giving to the community, right? It's a place where like parties are a wonderful place for people to connect. That's for whether you're in Web 2 or Web 3, doesn't matter. Come to AAVE, have a great time. Meet someone you didn't meet before. Maybe you run into Stani on the dance floor and you can tell them your story about how, the AAVE protocol, changed your life in some way. And I've seen that happen. And so this idea that it's just a place to connect and that's it actually does a lot for the community. And I think a huge piece when I'm thinking about marketing is the more you give to the community, the more they're incentivized to engage. And whether that's in like really cool swag drops, like we were talking about earlier, or really awesome parties where we're not asking for anything in return. I think that is it's like a gift to the community, right? And I think that is a huge thing that is very important to Web3 in general.
I think I just figured it out.
You did.
You
Tell
worked
us.
it out.
Tell us.
Rave party. But
Was that it?
right? Am I right?
Go on.
Yeah, is that Rave?
Rave, yeah.
Okay. So what we're doing right now, guys, like, look at this. How cool is this? We are IRL. We're in real life. We're like the intersection of nerds on a computer and like crypto 3.0. And it's innovative thinkers and bringing the ideas to the people. And I think that's the next intersection of really where crypto and TradFi, fi whatever is going. It's expanding these ideas and yeah, there's marketing and there's getting the memes out, because we're a meme community, right? Like if you think about it,
Lots of memes.
no,
Push the memes.
we're the first industry that is powered by memes. If you think about it,
That's a bold claim.
well, if I didn't challenge me, like seriously, think about it. We are powered by memes, and then we have figured out how to plug into the meme and YOLO it, right? Like, and so we're taking it and we're running with it, and with great memes comes great responsibility.
I was going to say, like, I do know protocols who look at retweets of memes as a KPI.
There you go.
In essence, like, yeah, memes are scalable. Memes are a part of the culture. It is definitely an integral part of crypto native marketing.
And I'll tell you
for
one
sure.
thing that this year it really hurt me, because I didn't figure it out until probably a month ago, about all of the meme coins, and everybody hates on them, and everybody just like, what are they doing? Those MFs, they figured it out. They figured out the power of the meme. They figured out unit bias, and let's make a quadrillion tokens, and let's make this appeal to kids that are spending their allowance on it. Like they took crypto and they said, let's make it fun. And I hated on it for years, but especially this year. But eventually, I mean, like, if you can't beat them, join them, and it's like, okay, they got it figured out. And so that's kind of the challenge of marketing in crypto 3.0, is like, how do we take those concepts to our tech and fundamentals? Because my project is just launched 3 weeks ago. We've got $100 million market cap. We're not like these guys. You guys are all traditionally established, where it's like we're at a crossroads of like which direction do we go? Do we market on our tech or on our fundamentals, or do we play a little bit dirty? We want to have our values, but it's like, what's working? And so, it's, who knows where the next year's going to go. I can't wait for the bear market personally, just so I can chill. But this has been rough.
What do we think is going to be different about marketing in the bear market? It's one of the things I wanted to touch upon today. Do you think a lot of the stuff that's working now, especially the meme stuff and everything else, like I wonder if there's going to be a long-lasting strategy, and actually you find, like you said, the good stuff goes to the top, right? Like what happens in the bear market? What do we think is the future for?
It's not going to be pretty.
Then? Especially when a lot of marketing, a lot of successful projects, successful marketing can be tied towards the token price, right? So if any of your projects have a token price, when things are going really well, you're like, oh, my marketing strategies are working really well. But actually, people are just interested. People are coming because of price or some other reason. So do you think firstly, how do you account for that noise in what you're doing? And what do you think will change about marketing when we eventually do it, if we do get to a bear market?
So everyone thinks they're a marketing genius during a bull market. And when the bear market comes, you kind of realize that you're not. And actually, my thoughts on the next bear market is that things probably won't be that different, because at this stage of where the industry is now, we're still so early. We still have 8 billion people to get to, and we've gotten to a stage where a lot of people are aware of crypto, but the number of people who actually use crypto is still so small. And a lot of successful projects, a lot of protocols are still very focused on that organic traction, and that organic traction that comes from aligning with a vision, loving a product, and feeling that self-actualization from contributing to a protocol and a community. That is not really going to change during a bear market. I think what would change is maybe like inter-protocol sentiment. So marketing strategies won't really change, but I think in the coming bear market, there's probably, and this is my personal opinion, it's not a reflection on any like institutional view or anything, but I think there's going to be a lot more token mergers and acquisitions. And I think right now there's a lot of small projects that are popping up. There's a lot of adjacent projects that I think could be unified under an umbrella concept. And I think that's going to happen more and more often. And in a bear market, when the token prices drop and when communities need to support each other, right now there's a lot of networks that, aren't very friendly with each other, or there's a lot of protocols that do similar things, and they keep on trying to differentiate themselves to be like, I have this derivatives exchange and there's this other derivatives exchange, but like we're better because of ABC. Like I feel like that type of marketing will probably change, and people kind of combine and think about how they can contribute to each other's projects, kind of like what the last talk from the CEO Celsius was about.
Look at Polygon too. Like they've been on a buying spree. They've been eating up all kinds of different protocols. That's something I've never really even considered. Are we going to turn into? I mean, is our industry going to turn into kind of TradFi or just regular corporations where they just M&A activity? That's one thing crypto really hasn't seen until 3-4 weeks ago, whatever it was, when Polygon started gobbling up different companies.
It's almost a different kind of M&A as well, because it's if you have a DAO structure, or like it's community run and it's decentralized, and then the communities are just joining together, it will be more grassroots kind of M&A. It'll be like proposed to have a partnership with this community, and then we decide we're going to I don't know how you would even do the merging. Like,
How
how do
does
you
it-
decide?
we should
what-
like rebrand it, right? We
Yeah.
shouldn't be calling it M&As. We can call it like, I don't know, like organizational friendship or something.
Yeah.
Give it a cool crypto name.
cuter.
Yeah.
Exactly, rebrand.
Yeah.
That's the next marketing meme. We started it here.
What did you call it?
Organizational friendship.
Organizational
Organizational
friendship.
friendship.
That sounds about right.
But I do think with going just back to the idea of just marketing in a bear market, I think the cool part is that that's when I feel like the best innovations take place, right? And so the cool part is that our teams are just going to go back and just roll up their sleeves and do awesome work and build amazing products. And it gives everyone the space, I think, to kind of step back and think, okay, like, what are we really trying to say? And so refining your brand or your voice or whatever content you're putting out there, I think it's a great moment to do that, because it actually, you're not chasing the next meme. You're not trying to like catch every wave that's happening. You actually have the space to think, okay, what's my message? What is, at the AAVE companies, like we have the AAVE protocol that we put out. We have the social graph that's coming out that Stani has spoken of. NFT as collateral. We have these different streams that are coming out, and so it's like, all right, it could be a really awesome moment to start thinking about the brand as a whole. It just gives more time to build, I think, which is actually really exciting.
The one thing that's great about a bear market is that you can actually take a breath. You can reflect on whatever the hell this last year was. But I think in a bull run, a lot of things get lost. Yes, we onboard so many new users, but what are they getting onboarded to? Like YOLO, get rich quick. They don't understand really what crypto's about, and we need to take a step back. I'm a bull market forever type of guy, and I think this is probably the last cycle that we have that is gonna. I mean, after this, we're gonna break free of the 4-year cycle, and then it's game on. Like look at all that we've accomplished this last year, but you ain't seen nothing yet. And so once those 8 billion more users that we have get onboarded, it's. I mean, I think Kobe sums it up best on Twitter, man. Is it over? I don't know. Look at the top 10. Is this the best that we could do? And so there's a lot of different there's a lot of different projects and protocols that are launching in stealth or still yet to onboard or start. And the landscape in the next 5 years, like that last talk that was before us, is going to be radically different than where it is now. So it's the dev's job to build it. It's our job to shill it, and like, let's see where we end up.
Let's see. Jay, do you have anything you want to add? Or
Yeah, maybe +1 on the focus comment. I remember I joined AirSwap, so I'm repping that today. But I joined AirSwap.
Love the Japanese on it.
Yeah,
Shilling.
exactly. They're part of the MetaMask team now, but I joined this team right when the bear market happened in 2016, and I think the thing that stood out to me the most was I don't think the amount of work changed. It was just focus and really having conviction with what you had planned, and then because the price action isn't a distraction, you can actually get proper user feedback and build things that make sense for the core user. So that was super helpful, but seemingly everyone's kind of said that already. So the second part I would say is maybe on the other side with community. You really have to be prepared for people that came in and potentially bought the top of the market and now are down 80-90%. They're not wrong by any means, but they do have a very loud voice because of how social media operates these days. So, I mean, if people have been on Twitter at least for more than a few months, you probably have the experience of talking to people who are very, very, very frustrated. It doesn't necessarily mean they're trolls, but the anger really is apparent. So as someone who really started my operating career in crypto with a really small project and kind of this grassroots approach, pre-awareness campaign, pre-brand level campaign, it was really evident for me to really understand where people were coming from, talk to them, really understand what it is that they're frustrated with. Because at the end of the day, even if you can't come to terms or in agreement with either side, one thing I have really noticed over time is if people see that you're listening to them, they'll at least be some percentage base less frustrated. And I think that's the overall goal. It's never to eliminate negativity. It's always just to keep it at bay, but also have that realm of understanding. So if you have a good strategy in place, especially with the community arm, and kind of echoing the comment of the global first brand where we're all kind of operating, make sure that the people that are on the ground are equipped with things in order to take that on, because not everyone knows how to be the kind of put their best face forward, especially in trying times. So I think that's kind of the point that I'd make for the bear market marketing.
Can devs do something?
Yeah, so you're gonna get a lot of that.
Yeah, I get that all the time.
It is what it is.
I really liked that point. I'm working with Vega Protocol for a number of years now, and during it was like 2018, 2019, 2020, where we didn't have this whole like when moon, everything going crazy, and that was when you got the real users who were there. They weren't there. They wasn't really tied to price. It wasn't tied to token. You didn't even have a token at that time. But then that was when you really built those relationships, and you got to talk to the people and see what they want. And then as things have now changed, and I've gone through the life cycle of us having a token and things like launching a bit more, you get a lot of hate when things go down. But if you're listening to people and you're actually doing like people give suggestions in like the Discord or other places, and you actually take it into account and you start reflecting on things, and you show that you're making small steps towards the things that people are asking for, and you're showing you're doing it publicly, and you're giving updates, and you're saying you're keeping to the promises that you make. People get a lot, they trust you a lot more, and then that's how you really build a community which actually lasts through the good, the bad, and everything in your what you're creating. And so the reason I mentioned this is because I want to move on from not move on, but talk about marketing and community together. So a lot of people I work in the community team within my project. A lot of these people here they're all in marketing, but they obviously interact with community as well. And a lot of people think of them as very similar. And I want to hear from each of you guys. What do you think is the difference between marketing and community? How do they play together? At what point does it shift from like a marketing activity to a community activity? And I'll give my thoughts as well at the end, because I have some interesting takes. And we'll start with Doug.
So I kind of have a unique perspective on this, just because, again, I'm not AAVE. I'm not some of these more well-established protocols, and so we're just starting. And so you have to start with the community, and you have to engage them. You have to inspire them. You have to, in a word, show them. Like, you really do. You've got to like inject them with the confidence that we're going to succeed. And then when you do that, you mobilize them, and you can leverage them, and then they can be pretty much unpaid marketing employees. They're on Twitter, they're on Reddit, they're on all these different social media platforms. They're spreading word of mouth, and that's like you're building a brand. And again, going back to the tech and the fundamentals, if you have a positive story to tell, if you've actually got something of substance, if you've got, or apparently, if you've got a dog face, like if you've got a meme, if you've got something, to tell your story around, and you start with that, you build from that. It can start with one person that starts to 10 to 100, 1,000, 1 million, and then you just go from there. So the power of community, again, back to the meme, we're powered by memes, right? We're powered by community, and so it's like the one industry, maybe not the one, but it's the industry that is powered by that. It's powered by the community, and it's important to recognize that, leverage it, and mobilize it.
Jess, particularly because you have AAVE grant style as well, and that is community focused. So you can talk a bit about that and what you perceive the difference between community and marketing and how they tie together.
No, and it's a great point, and you definitely touched on this. And I think for us, I think it depends on the product. So one of my colleagues, Jim, was here yesterday talking about the experiments arm of AAVE, the AAVE companies, which is called Newt, and which just launched. And it's a very the idea really is that we're building in public, we're building with the community. So it's really including the community in the process of building these projects, right? And so you can go on the Open Notion, you can see what we're building, our roadmap. And that's a huge way that we're leveraging community, because we're really like trying to build all together for just the greater good and the innovation of Web3 in general. When then if you look at the AAVE protocol, that is something that the AAVE companies had created and put forth, but now it's really just in a true decentralized fashion, it is governed by DAOs. And it's like, so for example, for this event, AAVE Grants DAO is the sponsor, right? And so we rely really heavily on them. And the thing is that they're totally self-sufficient, and they know sort of where to have us, to have the AAVE name at. They're amazing, and they're really just so passionate about it. And I was saying this to you guys backstage, but I think the cool thing is that when the community is so empowered, they're going to make decisions for the product that are beneficial for the product, right? So like the governance for the AAVE protocol is truly they're only doing things to better the protocol, right? And because it's for their own self, their self-worth, but also just for the betterment of the protocol in general. So
yeah, like absolutely. We were talking backstage about this, and I think the difference between marketing and community is really that aspect of centralization versus decentralization. I think marketing is about inspiring the vision, the mission of the protocol, of the project, of the product, and you bring that vision to the users who becomes hopefully engaged, and they participate in the development of just the execution, the actual ideation of the future. They help influence the future vision, but it kind of has to start from somewhere, and it comes from this centralized place where often it's the founding team who builds the purpose and the vision of what what the product should look like. And then when you have a good vision, when you have that, when you kind of finish setting this foundation up, you give the power to the people, and you trust them with making the right decisions for your project and your product. And that power is what's really unique about Web3, and which is why I think community marketing has become such a big part of this entire industry's culture.
That's actually a really good way to put it. I haven't thought of it that way before. I was initially thinking kind of more on the corporate versus not side. So I think the signals come from us as operators on the marketing side, and then communities more from everybody else, the participants. And I think to stretch that a little bit farther, one of the things that I see often in our space is everyone always calls a group of people in a Discord channel a community. But I would like to take that a little bit farther and say that's not quite the bar. I think the bar is a little bit higher, where you need to have two-way communications. If you don't really understand who exactly your community members are, then you can't call it a community. I think that's really something that if we hold ourselves to that higher standard, we'll probably be able to push and accelerate much more quickly. And I think to I guess your initial point too about the differences of the two, I think marketing in a future state will always be there, but I think it'll play a much smaller part. I think you guys are probably seeing that right now with the DAO, where I remember early days of, I guess, ETHLand probably. That was when marketing was probably much bigger, and community was just kind of this little blip. But now it seems like it's the exact opposite, especially with all of the DAO functions that you guys have.
Yeah, I'd also say too, I think like no matter, anytime you're launching something, there has to be in the beginning, there will be just innately some centralization, right? Because you are developing that voice, you are developing that brand, but then over time, you can become more and more decentralized. And I think part of that is trusting the community and being okay with relinquishing that power, because at the end of the day, yes, you created the technology, but it's not really yours. I made this analogy earlier when I was chatting with you, but I do think it's very similar, where an author can create a book and write a book and put it out into the world, but for them, the reader, it's going to mean something completely different than what the author meant and like their intention, right? And so letting go of the creative control, I think, is part of this space. It's part of just trusting the community and being open to change. Like anyone in the AAVE community could put forward, for example, a a rebrand if they wanted, right? There's nothing stopping anyone from doing that. And so it's really just understanding that the community is going to do what is best for the product. And, we're just sort of there as like champions, right? And that's the
Stewards.
best. Stewards.
No, because this is something I kind of struggle with too. Is your community can kind of get away from you, especially for a newer project like you build a community, you put the message out there, but there needs to be some sort of, I mean, I hate this word, but regulation of the community, and just they need to be guided, right? And so that's, I mean, essentially why we're all have jobs. Like
we definitely need to rebrand the term, I think, community regulations to like something much more crypto friendly.
friendly stewardship.
friendly stewardship.
But can't we trust the community then to do that themselves, right? And to like
I'm just coming from a point where you need to have direction, right? A positive direction, whatever your message is, whatever your project is, it needs to have some sort of loose direction. And if the community takes some points, they can run with it, and they can kind of take it down a road that you might not want to go down. And I'm speaking from experience here with I'm not even gonna get into it, but there's been some cases where the community has kind of ran a couple steps ahead of where we want to go. We've got some nuggets of information that we want to release in due time. And once the market and the overall community and industry evolves and is ready for that. But if some of those things link and the community goes this way, when they zig when we want to zag, so there needs to be some sort of I mean, that's why we have jobs. We're the what did you say? Friendly stewards? I think I might have said that, but
yeah. I want to talk on that point. In that there's different stages of growth, right? So as you get further and further along, it seems you get more decentralized and more community driven. But at the beginning, you're more centralized, and you're kind of guiding the community and growing it and forming it. And then you're finding those trusted people in the community that end up actually becoming the stewards alongside yourself. So it's not like you telling them what to do, but you're actually putting you're putting the framework together. You're getting them.
It's like raising a baby.
It's like raising a baby, raising lots of babies all
Lots,
at the same time.
Thousands.
So let's talk about tooling then. What do you guys think of Discord, Telegram, Twitter, everything else? How does that fit into the whole marketing community strategy? And there's a lot of noise, and there's a lot of crap going on in those channels, but they're also very, very useful. Which of these things, or do you use other tools that you want to bring up and tell us about? Which of them do you prioritize, and which one do you find the communities like? Which ones are the most useful for getting people to actually commit and contribute to the communities you're trying to create?
I'm tooled out. I don't need another
Every tool.
tool. If somebody tells me another tool, I mean, everything happens on Telegram. Everyone tries to go to Discord, but I think in crypto it's probably Telegram, right?
I think it's both.
Both, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I'm going to say this like 100 times. I feel like it depends on the product, but for something like for our project like Newt, the call to action is on Discord. The call to action is if you want to help build, like, you come in the build channel and you like tag Jim and you're like, I want to help. And that's the call to action versus something like AAVE, where it's like, that's all happening on Twitter. It's like, if you want to see where the next drop of the ticket is, you're going to be on Twitter. So I think it just depends like where you're trying to, what the call to action actually is.
Yeah, like everything Jess said, I think crypto native marketing and crypto beginner marketing, the execution looks very different. And right now, the crypto native community is still very small. So tools like Twitter and Discord works, but I personally don't think it's very scalable. And in kind of the more traditional marketing sense for crypto beginner marketing, there's a lot of the more traditional tools that at Bitcoin.com we do use to try to get a more educational component of crypto out there to the world. We also I'm not sure if I should categorize it under marketing tools, but we also use a lot of like Web2 integration tools to say focus on in-app marketing or in-product marketing, and those are some of the tools that we we do value quite a bit.
I think the point that you were saying, Jess, is for me, it's like segmentation, audience segmentation, and also based on the product, obviously. For us, we use these platforms based on the users. So Discord for us is our more developer focused, technical in nature. So a lot of the moderators there are developers. On the Telegram side, it's more retail trader friendly, DeFi user friendly, and it's a little bit more of a Wild West, I would say, probably. But there may be tactics where it's mostly focused on high level milestones or objectives. I think that's where it probably shines through, and maybe also some of like the new retail users that are coming in. So very kind of the spectrum's pretty wide, I guess, is the point there. And then with the tools that we prioritize, it's really any tool that can help us work smart, not hard. So it really doesn't. It's not like there's one tool that we really like the most. Like one example. I know, so when I joined Avalanche, I was the first or second hire in conjunction with another hire for marketing. Right now, including community managers, we're about 40 people on the marketing team, with the whole company being about 150. So in the beginning, the social feed on Avalabs at Avalanche was just me. It was me posting, but of course, as a lead, it's not also the main job that I have. I do actually like it a lot, but for what it's worth, you need help there. So with Buffer, for example, Buffer allowed us to syndicate all of the content across all of the channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and then a few others like Instagram and maybe another channel.
Buffer?
Yeah.
I just found another tool.
Yeah.
Man.
I thought you were tooled down. But the example here was as a one-person social team, or a half person, because that was half my time at that point in time. It really helped me create a full social strategy where people were like, oh, well, you actually post a lot. Like, who's your LinkedIn guy? Or who's the woman that's running Facebook? It's like, well, that's actually just copy and paste across. So very lazy approach, but it worked at the time. And so I think that's just one of many examples where, so long as you're able to get the job done, we all know that this space is pretty fast. And I think perfection is sometimes the enemy, and that's where it's just to get the rails in place. And I think later you can figure out what the train looks like. And I think that's kind of the take.
Just to add on to that point, I think right now, again, the community is still very early, and a lot of people are self-organizing, self-motivated to sift through a lot of noise. And so people are able to handle being in like 10 different Discord servers as like a mod. And, you know, they are just very motivated to do their own research. But as the market gets bigger, we're going to get more lazy people in the community. And so I think in terms of tools, there's probably going to be aggregation tools that will start developing that would, say, use machine learning to pick up one of the most important like Discord chats only. Or there would be, just automation tools so that, as Jay mentioned, like things would just be more convenient. And I think as best practices and cultures form through experimentation that all of us here are doing, these best practices will be probably put into some sort of a tooling down the line for everyone.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I would say that the tools that we will probably be using in the future haven't really been developed yet. That's the big problem with DAOs right now. Like, a DAO doesn't know how to organize itself. It doesn't know how to get the community to collectively agree on the same things and how do they organize. And so I think once you solve that community or organizational problem, you actually see a lot more throughput from DAOs and organizations that are community led mostly. In terms of actually, no, I'll skip forwards because we only have 5 minutes left. Let's talk about partnerships and the value of partnerships within marketing. Lots of projects, they partner with different groups, and then this partnership, like, I don't know, it just pumps the price immediately because they're like, oh wow, like they're partnered with these people, I like them, and then the communities overlap. But I think there's actually a lot more to it than that. And partnerships can be really, really useful to get different groups of people from this limited set of eyeballs that we currently have in the space. And so I'm wondering, how do you guys approach partnerships? What do you think of it? And is it more of a partnership for marketing, or is it partnership when there's actually a really useful cross collaboration between the two groups? yeah, we've only got a few minutes, so keep it brief. But what do you guys think of partnerships?
I think there's two types. There's a real partnership where you're really going to do shit, or there's a partnership, you know?
Mm,
And I know that we don't have much time, but we have to touch on influencers and those partnerships,
yeah.
you know? So I think as you girls were saying earlier, like the community is starting to see through. They're getting wiser. They're getting smart. Like they can sift through the BS. And so like you announce something and it doesn't have substance. Is it going to go somewhere, or is it like, okay. And similar to the whole seedy underbelly of crypto Twitter and those, you know, in February, maybe like you'd see a tweet and be like, okay, but now it's like, okay. So it's like you kind of have to have some self-sovereignty and kind of see through, what a real partnership is.
I think the definition of a partnership is whatever fills a void that your project, protocol, or company has. And I think that void can come in many different ways. The obvious one is the user funnel. So if your product is catered towards beginners, but your users are growing into a more advanced user, then I think a partnership with a product that helps, elevate the usage, the utility for a user in a more advanced way is obviously like a really good call. I think a brand partnership is something that makes sense. So if there's a perception issue of your protocol and you're perceived in a certain way, for instance, if people regard your protocol as a maxi in like a certain network, I think a partnership with a product that is strong in like another network could really fill that void. And yeah, like I think a partnership is something that kind of resolves that void between two parties. And I think it could be executed beautifully and elegantly if you find the right partner. Wow, I feel like I'm talking about a relationship.
We need another
That was beautiful.
a name. Symbiotic partnership.
Organizational friendship.
There we go.
We love organizational friendship. Jay, do you want any closing thoughts?
Maybe the quick one is I'm glad to see the Web3 user base become a little bit more, I guess, selective with how they're reviewing and viewing partnerships. In 2017, you could announce Microsoft writes like FAQ documentation on your project, and you say that's a partnership. And I think the market reacted pretty favorably to those tricks at the time. I don't think that's actually something that exists these days. Maybe I'm just missing it. But what's happened, though, is the user base wants to actually see how it affects them. That's actually the important question to be asking. So I think in early days, we used to even create a lot of documentation and storytelling around the actual collaboration. But that was also unhelpful because they needed to get to the crux of the actual takeaway. And so I think we've taken this middle ground approach, kind of like how journalists do it, where you have summaries where you say, hey, these are the top 4 or 5 takeaways. Here's what it means if you own this token or if you use this application. If you want to understand the really, really deep intricacies of what this actually means, go through the actual editorial. But if not, then it's totally fine to kind of skim through the top and move along. And again, it's the signal to noise question or kind of the commentary, I guess. So yeah, just really excited to see that happen. So I think as we move forward, it's going to be, I guess, more challenging for us because we're going to have to think of ways to better engage, but better for everybody as a whole.
Nice. Should we wrap up there? Yeah?
Not before we give Chelsea a round of applause. She organized all of this, got all our speakers behind the scenes. I just want, this has been so
Fellow
cool.
marketer.
How about DeFiCon, guys? How cool is this? So you're awesome, Chelsea. Thank you. And Marin, too.
Well, thank you all for attending. I hope you liked talking about marketing in DeFi. Thank you all for the fantastic panelists we've had. And I hope to see you guys around the conference a bit more here and there and at other IRL conferences in the future. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.